to Horror Cult Trash River, the show that discusses all the masterpieces and trashpieces of genre cinema. I'm Gary.
And I'm Chris.
And this week, ahead of the Razzies next week, we are bringing you a Razzie winner from 2007. One that scooped up a lot of Razzies, but actually wasn't even that bad. Not as bad as we'd kind of hoped it would be for plenty of material for the episode.
Yeah, probably unjustifiably swept the boards, didn't it, at the Razzies back in 2008?
It did.
2007.
It did indeed.
It's I Know Who Killed Me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that title. Not 100% sure.
I mean, it's a line of dialogue in the film,
which doesn't work in the film. Okay, let's be honest. It's not a masterpiece by any account. Yeah, but there was some fun to be had.
Yeah, so there's two sides to this. There's the side where everyone thinks it's an absolute disaster just because Lindsay Lohan's in it. Post Mean Girls.
It's not post Mean Girls.
It's around the time when she was having a breakdown, wasn't it?
It was, and we're not going to sit here and diss Lindsay Lohan. I like Lindsay Lohan. I liked her film Mean Girls, Confessions of a Teenage Drama Queen, Just My Look, Freaky Friday. Watched them all. Parent Trap, loved it, and she was a great child and teen star. You know, she was one of my favourites, and she did have a tough time, and in the grand tradition of trial by media, she became a big target.
Yeah.
She had her issues with drugs and alcohol, and they were relentless.
Yeah.
And it's a shame, really, because, I mean, I used to, read Perez Hilton all the time. I loved it. Loved celeb gossip. Now I'm older and very much wiser. I realise how awful that whole thing was.
Yeah, and he's a piece of shit.
Yeah, so we're not here to judge that.
No, absolutely not. It's such a 2007 thing. I mean, obviously Britney had the same sort of treatment.
Absolutely.
It was just a big joke to everyone, Any younger star, whether, from the music industry or the film industry, they're going downhill and they're having a breakdown. It's just one big joke to the media back in 2007. And it's absolutely shocking that we were alive to see that sort of time happening. It's not even that far away.
And it hasn't completely ended now.
No.
Really. Now it's trial by social media.
Yeah.
But back at that time, Lindsay Lohan was a big target. And I think that's really why the film swept the board. Really did sweep the board at
bullshit.
The Razzie Awards.
So,
because Lindsay Lohan was a big target. This was her first real adult role.
Yeah.
The marketing all involved her dancing around a stripper pole.
Yeah.
This was, I'm assuming, a 15 rated, 18 rated film at the time. At 18, I think, because it is quite violent. And this was her breakout role into more adult films.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a fucking mess. It is a mess.
Mm. And
so people latched onto that. It was a big flop. Did fairly well on home video, I think.
Yeah. This one trivia.
People thought it was the kind of film you would probably prefer at home in your own company, if you know what I mean, like Showgirls.
Yeah.
So it was just a real target for the red, because there was some shit that came out that year, which I'm sure Gary will explain.
I really don't understand how this beat the likes of Norbit, and now potentially Chuck and Larry and Epic Movie at all these awards. This is absolutely bizarre. Like, the awards it won, Worst Picture, Worst Actress again, Lindsay Lohan playing two characters. Worst Screen Couple for Lindsay Lohan and her two characters. Worst Remake or Rip-Off. Worst Director. Worst Screenplay. Worst Excuse for a Horror Film. and the only one it didn't win that it was nominated for was Worst Supporting Actress for Julia Ormond. Worst excuse for a horror film, it beat Hannibal Rising. How?
Hannibal Rising was rough.
Like, seriously, this film is not that bad. It is not that bad to justify all those wins.
No, but it's the big film that's going to get headlines for the Razzies, isn't it? And at the end of the day, someone like, Eddie Murphy with Norbit, it's not really going to be big headlines. Norbit, by all accounts, shit. I haven't seen it, have you?
Unfortunately.
Yeah. It was abysmal, but I don't think Eddie Murphy's brand was that big at the time. Whereas with Lindsay Lohan, it was let's be honest, a way of tearing her down, really.
Yeah.
And in some ways probably a punishment for her behaviour off screen.
Yeah.
I think it's a real shame. It is a real shame, and I really hope, Lindsay Lohan does have that comeback and gets to show us really what she's capable of. Because she, like I said, in her, Disney roles and in Mean Girls, she had such a wonderful charm about her that makes someone a star.
Mm-hmm.
She was a star. She was, really a household name. And I think it's a real shame because she has had her struggles with many child stars. They have their struggles, being in the limelight, having a lot of things easily available to them. And I don't want to make the whole podcast about that, but I just want to explain that we're not here to, diss Lindsay Lohan as a person.
Yeah.
That being said, this is a rough film. This isn't a masterpiece by any accounts.
No, it isn't. But it's not a trashterpiece either. It's that awkward place in the middle. But yeah, that's what I was saying before. You got one side of the internet and the film critics and whatnot who despise it. It's the worst film ever made, whatever. But then you got this other side, this new resurgence where people are saying it's a cult film, misunderstood classic, and it's not really either. It's just somewhere in the middle. Which, for us who are here to, make jokes out of films, it doesn't really help us. But yes, I know...
There's a few moments.
There are a few.
There are a few. Mentioning.
And it is an important film to discuss on a podcast like this. It is a big part of horror, cult and trash history because of its reputation. So, directed by Chris Sivertson, who we saw in person just the other day.
We did, not even realising.
No. Director of the up-and-coming Christina Ricci film, Monstrous, which was the second best film we watched at Frogfest.
Yeah. He's come a long way.
Yeah. He also directed All Cheerleaders Die, the original and the remake, Toolbox Murders as It Was, the documentary, The Lost Brawler, Don't Wake Mummy, Heartthrob, Did I Kill My Lover, and Driven to the Edge. Made on a budget of $12 million, and it only made $9.6 million at the box office. I can't believe it's even had a theatrical release.
It has got direct-to-video written all over it.
It has. So getting into the trivia, Lindsay Lohan's legal issues became a problem during filming. Some days she would show up late, some days she didn't show up at all. Whilst filming the climax and reshoots, Chris Sivertson used a body double and digitally replaced her face with Lohan's for the days that she wasn't on set. Not that you would know, it means it's so dark.
I think that's maybe the choice was to make it so dark.
Yes. Lindsay Lohan actually... by the way, she recently started TikTok, and apparently we've been saying her name wrong all this time. She says her name is Lindsay Lohan.
Lindsay Lohan?
Yeah, I mean, we've been calling her Lohan for decades now. Like, I mean, I'm sure we all have.
Yeah, I suppose do you remember that episode of Drag Race where RuPaul randomly told everyone that we'd been pronouncing Raven Simone wrong?
No.
And it was Raven Simone.
Yeah.
Maybe that's, the same thing. Maybe Disney just decided this is how it's easier to pronounce this way, and that's how they marketed all these child stars. And like, no, you're property of Disney now, so you'll pronounce your name the way we tell you to pronounce your name.
Yes. She actually took pole dancing lessons to prepare for her role as a stripper. Because of the strict no nudity clause in her contract, she was not willing to strip nude for the film. This was a source of criticism for viewers and critics. Because if Lohan or Lohan is playing an exotic dancer, then nudity was naturally expected. Made more apparent by the fact that the background strippers in the film do get naked, except for Lohan. AKA, if this was any other film and any other star, they wouldn't have a single problem with it. But because it's Lindsay Lohan, and this is an excuse for her to get her boobs out, and she doesn't do it, they're all pissed off. That's basically what that is.
I agree with you to a certain degree. But, I mean, real life strippers, they strip.
Yeah.
You know, we recently discussed a film called Strip to Kill.
Yeah.
Where strippers stripped. We've both been to strip clubs.
Yeah.
The strippers stripped. That was the point. I was just... And I suppose if you're marketing... Because she's there front and centre on the poster, you know, dancing around a pole, there's maybe certain expectations as to the role itself.
Yeah.
There were many scenes in the film of her performing as a stripper, but it kind of falls flat because it's just her in a corset going around a pole.
Oh, definitely.
Which if it was just one scene, you'd be like, okay, you know, whatever. But it keeps happening.
Yeah.
And it feels a little... When you're expecting this to be her breakout adult role, you know, she's playing twins, you know, this is her really getting to grips with a thrilling role, something different to what she was used to doing. It does seem a little, what's the word? It feels a little conservative.
Yeah, but at the same time, if she did get it all out, then she would have faced backlash for that as well.
That is, that is the thing.
Lose for her.
I think ultimately this just wasn't the right film.
No.
To choose for your breakout, proper acting role. This wasn't the film.
Yeah.
This is B-movie stuff here.
Oh yeah.
You know, and I think if Lindsay Lohan wasn't in it, then we maybe would have gotten more camp.
Yeah.
And it maybe could have played up more on the ridiculousness of the whole thing. But I think it was whoever was behind it was like, we've got Lindsay Lohan, we want her to do this proper role now, so you've got to keep it serious. When really, in the right hands, with the right people, this could have been B-movie gold.
Yeah, definitely. Because of her negative reputation, Lindsay Lohan couldn't even walk to her trailer without the paparazzi photographing her. Sometimes they would even end up in the background of some of the shots of the film.
Yeah, really just... It feels like a million years ago, but it really isn't. And it hasn't actually changed that much overall. No. I think we are in a better place when it comes to stuff like that.
Yeah.
We're not quite there. But particularly with Britney's story, I think we're all realising, wow, that was some bullshit.
Yeah. Her DUI arrest in late July 2007 prevented her from doing promotion for the film. She was scheduled to appear as a guest star on The Tonight Show with Jay Leno to promote the film. This was around that time when it all went down.
And it is a shame. And I would, a DUI offence is a very serious thing. Yeah. You know, so I'm not saying that to take it lightly, but I do think that maybe she could have had more help than she did at the time.
Wasn't screened in advance for critics.
No, I don't suppose it was.
Chris Sivertson's favourite works such as Vertigo, Blue Velvet, Dressed to Kill and Twin Peaks all served as inspiration for this film. And he also took inspiration from David Lynch, Dario Argento, Brian De Palma and Hitchcock, incorporating their use of surrealistic imagery and creative colour choices for the film.
Which is fabulous, but it doesn't work.
No.
It doesn't work. There's too much going on there, and it's muddled.
Yeah, I mean, it's conflicting because I really like the cinematography, but it kind of, it feels like it belongs somewhere else. It just, because the rest of the film, because there's those moments of bad acting and, messiness and that, it kind of, it feels like there's a really, really good film somewhere inside this that shows glimpses every now and then and it just never fully forms.
I said this to you, didn't I? David Cronenberg could have made this a 5-star film.
Yeah.
Because he can do... Because there is a lot of body horror involved. But he can do that kind of weirdness. Not necessarily surreal.
No.
But that weirdness with a kind of... Also a seriousness.
Yeah.
As well. And it works. Unfortunately, it didn't in this case. Whereas someone like Lynch can sometimes go out and out surreal.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that the Blue Velvet comparisons and influence, but I don't know, just in the wrong hands. I'm sorry, and I'm sure he's a wonderful director, and we saw him at the weekend, and Monstrous was a good film. But it just doesn't work in this context.
No. In Aubrey's bedroom, seen throughout the film, if looking closely behind the door, you can spot a familiar purple guitar leaning against the dresser drawer. Not only is purple a colour made from combining blue and red, the two dominant colours of the film, it's also the same guitar that appears on the iconic cover of Lindsay Lohan's album Speak.
Yes.
The film's critical and fun.
I thought the album was Rumours. Was there 2 albums?
2, yeah.
Oh.
The film's critical and financial failure seriously damaged the careers of Chris Sivitson, actress Lindsay Lohan, producer Frank Mancuso Jr., and screenwriter Jeff Hammond, who never wrote another film script again after this film. I mean, Chris Sivitson's still making films now, and let's face it, they're kind of still on the same level as they were back then, so I don't know how much this really affected his career in comparison to Lindsay Lohan, who, as far as I know, hasn't really picked back up since.
No, and she had a few duds at the time. Labour Pains was around that time.
Yeah.
She did the TV movie of the Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton story, which wasn't very well received.
Yeah, she was also in the disaster that was Scary Movie 5 as well.
But I think the big problem was her behaviour offset.
Yeah.
And I think maybe people were pushing her to continue working, and I don't think it helped her situation. Whereas she probably could have done with some time off to sort herself out.
Yeah.
So, and I think she eventually has. I don't know what she's done recently.
She is going to be in Christmas in Wonderland, which is in post-production, and Cursed, which is in pre-production.
Okay.
I mean...
That looks a little cheap. That looks very cheap.
At least it'll be at Fright Fest. So... yeah, that might even be a bit much even for Fright Fest.
It's a shame, really, because she had charisma in bucket loads.
Oh yeah,
she really did.
I still think there's still chance for her, even though she's starring in shit like that. I think, we're in the land of requels now. You do a Mean Girls one, bring her back for that.
Oh yeah, that's what she could.
In a 2019 interview, Sivitson revealed the existence of a 3.5-hour long director's cut.
Fucking hell.
And if it could get released, saying to a lot of people it doesn't make sense, and there are a lot of plot scenes, especially a lot of investigative FBI stuff that were just totally cut out of the film. I was more interested at the time with just the weirdness of it all.
Yeah, one issue I do have, and it's not the people playing the FBI. But the FBI seems to kind of be plonked in,
Yeah.
and nothing really comes from it.
No.
And then the film kind of forgets the FBI by the
Yeah.
end.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate because it's part of the film that grounds it in reality.
Yeah.
When a lot of it is ridiculous, and the plot is ridiculous, and I can't speak on anyone's behalf, but I'm not sure if it's true, the whole twin thing, injury thing.
Probably not.
It's no. So there's the ridiculousness of that, and it probably could have done with less FBI, if I'm being honest,
Well,
and more in the fantasy realm.
I don't think we'll ever see the 3.5 hour.
No,
I don't think there's high demand for her. Though the film itself is a failure and critically panned, the score for the film by Joel McNeely received universal critical acclaim, regarded as one of the year 2007's best original film scores by critics. I really like the score. I thought it was really good.
Yeah, the song choices are a little strange.
Yeah.
But yeah, the score was great.
Yeah, and a bit of trivia we've already discussed. This was Lindsay Lohan's first attempt at, a more adult-oriented film. Her attempt to play against types and be taken seriously as an actress.
Yeah, which pretty much means saying fuck and smoking a cigarette.
Yeah, basically. Screenwriter Jeff Hammond talked about how he came up with the idea for the film by saying, after school one day when I was very young, some kids from the local high school got stuck in a stalled car on the railroad tracks. In the car were two high school boys and their girlfriends. There was a train coming. The car was directly in its path. The director and the two girls made it out of the car, but the boy in the back seat got trapped. It was a coupe and a tight squeeze, and somehow he got his foot caught under the seat. The train hit the car, with him still half in it, so this boy had an identical twin who was elsewhere that day. But that twin felt something was wrong, catastrophically wrong, and he became convinced when the sense of dread didn't pass that his brother had died. The story that got passed around was that he felt his brother died at the exact moment of his death, and I was 10 or 11 years old at the time, and I was haunted for a long time by the story.
Oh, okay.
So that's where that comes from.
I see. Okay.
No opinion on...
Well, yeah, okay. It's, yeah. What can you say? I mean, it makes sense, but,
Despite failing at the box office, the film was actually surprisingly successful on home video. The DVD and Blu-ray were released on November 2007, and by January it had made over $11 million in home video sales. By the end of its run, the film had grossed over $28 million in home video sales.
Sex sells, doesn't it? Unfortunately,
it does.
It does.
But it's not a very sexy film.
It's not though, but it's
but
marketed.
You've brought it. So.
Well, Lindsay Lohan is. I genuinely think that she was very sexualized. At quite a young age.
Well, she was. I mean, it's the whole 2000s thing is, if you've got a film with a female lead, you've got to try and make it look as sexy as possible. And I know I always use it as a reference point, but look at Jennifer's Body. It is the perfect example.
Mm-hmm.
It is not a film to sexualize women, the absolute opposite. But the entire marketing was, here's Megan Fox looking sexy, please buy this film. And
yeah,
there we go.
But I think Lindsay Lohan and the comparisons to Britney are numerous, really.
Yeah.
I think. And I always remember a massive deal, huge deal, being made of Britney Spears when the Sometimes video came out. Because apparently her breasts had grown massively overnight. And it was this huge thing about why her boobs look so big. What has she had done? Why? Oh, she's a growing girl. All that stuff. And she was a young age then.
Yeah.
And I think Lindsay Lohan was victim of the same as well.
Yeah.
Where she was a child star, but obviously when she started to develop, and become more womanly, a huge deal was made of it.
Yeah.
And she was sexualized, and I think that's why front and center of the marketing for this film is Lindsay Lohan dancing around a pole.
It's fucking weird. It's a really weird way of looking at things, especially when these people start off as child stars, and then people become obsessed, and as soon as they're able to sexualize them, they do it. It's really weird if you ask me.
From from the offset with Britney, wasn't it?
Yeah,
In the schoolgirl outfit and that Rolling Stone cover, and I think people are becoming more savvy to it now. And you wouldn't get that with, say, someone like Zendaya.
No.
Who is a modern comparison. You wouldn't get that now because people are like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
You know?
Lindsay Lohan has since disowned this film and hates it.
But yeah, ruined her career. And she, maybe she wasn't in the right place to be doing this film. We're beating a dead horse at the moment.
The original ending revealed that the Aubrey and Dakota characters were not real, and that the entire film was simply an unnamed college student's script, also played by Lindsay Lohan. The ending was cut after test audiences found it too predictable, but it is on the special features for the DVD and Blu-ray. Honestly, that would have been so much better. I don't care how predictable it is. That would have been a massive improvement on the ending we do have.
Yeah, I'd rather the ending to be a, oh, okay, rather than a, huh?
Yeah.
I'd rather not sit there and, have all these unanswerable questions in my head, like, what the fuck's going on? If you can just, it was all a dream ending.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that if it just, explains away some of the confused parts.
The primary colours of the film, red and blue, symbolically represent Aubrey and Dakota's personalities. Big thing in this film is the colour scheme.
Oh my god. Speaking of beating a dead horse, fucking hell. The whole thing, it's like we get it.
I believe we call it bisexual lighting these days. This sort of neon thing going on. I didn't hate it. I thought it was quite stylish.
It was the first few times, but I just felt like the whole thing, it's like we get it, we understand.
Yeah.
And it was like there, glaringly obvious in your face, I did think we were beating a dead horse.
Well, getting into the
probably
film,
shouldn't use that analogy. It's not a very nice one, is it?
Getting into the film, a young woman who was missing reappears, but she claims to be someone else entirely.
Dun, dun, dun.
So we start off in the quiet suburb of New Salem, which is currently being terrorised by a serial killer who abducts and tortures young women, holding them captive for weeks before murdering them.
Yeah, so we start off with a lovely stylish puddle reflection.
Yeah, just like the Odeon advertisement with Nicole Kidman.
Excuse me, I was about to make that joke. Nicole Kidman
takes her hood off.
Takes her hood. No, nice stylish puddle reflection of a neon burlesque sign.
Yeah.
It's burlesque. Credits roll to a Lou Reed-esque song.
Yeah, Step On Inside by Vietnam.
Yeah, I was getting Lou Reed. And might as well get straight to it. Lindsay Lohan doing her sexy pole dance.
Yeah, she is Aubrey. Wow, at this point we think she's Aubrey Fleming, a pianist and aspiring writer. She's having a bit of a pole dance.
A little bit of foreboding. We get blood on the pole,
starts
don't
to bleed. And we cut to her reading a story in class about someone choking on wheels.
Yeah, I have absolutely no idea what this story was about. Something about a truck driver and whether a girl is real or not. She's such a nerd with her glasses, though.
She is.
You can tell she's a good girl who does well at school because she's wearing glasses. But she's got a little bit of an edge to her because she goes on her way home. She's the gardener, doesn't she?
She does.
Oh wait, excuse me. No, this is the gardener that is cutting the hedge from inside the hedge. I'm a little confused by that.
Yeah.
He was cutting his way out of the hedge.
He was.
Rather than cutting
Somehow
back
he got trapped inside there.
Yeah. He had a Homer Simpson moment.
She gets to a piano lesson for the next young musician competition. that's coming up. When she is distracted by the gardener, who's now at the window waving to her.
Yes.
She's he's a bit of a red herring straight away.
A little bit, yeah. She's having doubts.
She is.
And she wants to quit piano to focus on her writing and getting into Yale. Yale. Did I sound like Deja Skye doing Little John? Yale. Turns out she won the Young Musician Award many years ago, though, so I was a little confused by that. Is she trying out for it again? I don't think she's that young at this point, though, if she's about to go to college.
Well, I used to laugh about this scene as a British piano instructor, Douglas Norquist. And if that name alone is not a red herring, the fact that he's a mysterious British piano teacher from the get-go, spoiler alert, this guy's the killer.
Yeah.
As if it wasn't any more obvious. But she's there like...
But it's not... I forgot he existed by the end.
I was waiting for this reveal. I knew this was going to happen.
I
so
thought
obvious.
it was a bit like Scooby-Doo, when they pull the mask off, and it's someone... Oh, were they in that episode? When were they in the episode? Who is this guy?
Because his acting's so dodgy as well. You can see he's trying not to be suspicious, but he's so suspicious.
Yeah.
She's like, yeah, I'm thinking of quitting. He's like... Oh no, don't quit. And she's like, no, I definitely want to quit. It's like, okay, bye. And then just leaves.
Yeah. We get a really nice shot of a Sphinx cat at the top of the stairs. Anything, stands out about this cat?
No.
No, like giant testicles, like
I
front and
can't
center.
Can't say I noticed.
Oh my god, it was right there, like right there. I was like, oh god. Well, I don't know why. I'm assuming it was testicle. I wasn't paying that much attention, but
I mean, you were paying more attention than me, clearly.
It stuck out. Whatever it was, it stuck out.
Chris Barker, spotter of cat's balls.
It's right in the middle of the screen, but anyway. So Aubrey's at her desk at night, typing up her story. She's wearing glasses again, isn't she?
She is. What a nerd.
Then we get a close-up of her bare foot.
Tapping along to the sad indie song she's listening to.
Yeah. Come on, Tarantino. I didn't know he was an influence.
She cuts her finger... Oh, yes, the editing goes insane at this point. The editing's on crack. It just... we go from her in her bedroom having a quiet, sad writing session. The next minute, she's getting a blue rose from her admirer, Jared.
Her boyfriend.
Well, he tries to ask her out in the scene after this.
No, he tries to ask to have a shag.
Oh, okay.
So he gives her a blue rose. She's like, where did you get a blue rose from? Oh, blue, that's my favourite colour. In a little bit of more foreboding, she pricks her finger. She
does. But then we fast cut to news reporters trying to get a cop to talk about a girl who's been murdered.
Yeah, well, we get a pan to an array of missing girl posters nearby. Then we get a random scream. Absolutely no reason for this random scream. Don't know who it is, why it is, no idea. And then a police officer being harassed by the media in relation to a murdered girl being found.
Yeah.
And he's like, there's nothing to suggest that this murder has anything to do with the fucking dozens of missing girls. Which, obviously, it does have a lot to do with these dozens of missing girls. In class, Jared is trying it on with Aubrey, but she's having absolutely none of it.
Yeah.
Jared says that he's falling in love, and she's like, what the fuck are you talking about? She didn't swear. She only swears when she's Dakota. She's like, what are you talking about? We haven't been together all that long. Then Jared, embarrassingly, so embarrassing, he's asked by his teacher to show the female sex organs of whatever's underneath the microscope. I don't think it's explained. But he shows her the male sex organs.
Yeah. So Aubrey's like, well, you're going to need to be more experienced before you date me.
Yeah.
And then, in a bizarre series of events, the teacher is informed about the missing girl that's been murdered. And she says, Jennifer Toland's body was discovered this morning. Please don't ask me any more questions. I don't know the details.
What the fuck is... The thing is, they come to the door, whoever's informing her, and it's very brief,
Yeah.
the conversation, and then she does this thing, where it's, don't ask me for any more details, I don't know. It's like, that's obvious. And like one sentence, they just, you know that phenomenal scene in the pilot episode of Twin Peaks,
Mm-hmm.
where it's, everyone finds out at the school that Laura Palmer's been murdered.
Yeah.
Her body's been found. Do you think they were going for that?
Probably.
It didn't work.
No.
It did not work. It was just hilarious. Don't ask me any more questions.
Yeah, because then it leads on to a voiceover of someone doing a write-up on Jennifer's death whilst the parents identify the body.
Jennifer's body is identified by her parents.
It is all a little Twin Peaksy. We're trying to be. But yeah, just no.
No.
Aubrey drives home and the gardener next door, again in another bizarre series of events, he takes his shirt off and then starts wanking off a tree branch whilst watching her.
Yeah.
And she gives him middle finger and then he gives a really low effort wolf noise like, whoa.
Yeah. And then Carly Rae Jepsen comes out.
Yeah.
Starts singing Call Me Maybe. Turns out he's gay. No. It's completely pointless. Because what I don't understand is that the whole thing is that Dakota and Aubrey are two very different people. One's red, one's blue.
Uh-huh.
Yeah? One's fiery, one's very passive. So I don't understand this whole flirtatiousness with the gardener thing, because that's kind of, it's kind of like Rose and Blanche.
Mm.
Rose wouldn't do that, but Blanche would.
Yeah.
Obviously Aubrey is Rose and Dakota is Blanche. So it didn't make any sense.
No.
It's out of character when your whole film is based around this split between the two, and it doesn't really lead anywhere either.
No. Speaking of things that don't work, the school football game is dedicated to Jennifer, and there's a few weird edits thrown in where the colour blue is highlighted and everything else goes black and white at some point. Now, I do like the cinematography in this film, but what the fuck were they trying to do here?
It comes across a bit cringe. Also, there are parts of this scene where it looks like you're wearing red and blue glasses.
It just doesn't work.
No, I don't know if it's the same in America, but we would have a minute silence.
Yeah.
And I thought he said a minute silence.
It's like fucking 5 seconds
but
silence.
It was literally 5 seconds. So I don't know if he said a moment silence. I thought it was a minute silence. I was like, oh, okay. Oh, poor Jennifer. She got barely any fucking time. Yeah, very weird. And this Rose, I have to say, consider it's out of water for like a whole day. It really lives a very long time. Like, well done, whoever grew that. This is a strong Rose.
Yeah, Aubrey tells her friends that she'll be moving away in January, so she can't afford to fall in love with Jared. And then she goes to find Jared on her own.
Is that what they said? Because they were talking so fast.
Yeah.
I had no idea what they were saying.
She's moving away for
These
something.
two girls that we never see again. That's why, like her best
Oh,
friends.
I know, yeah.
Don't even come to visit when it's
No.
Dakota.
No. She goes to this in the 3.5 hour cut. She goes to find Jared on her own, and then she goes missing. Her friends try calling her, and Jared shows up, and he says, "Where did she park her car?" And her friend's like, "It's on the street with the street." Oh, come on, really?
Yeah, it turns out it's like round the corner anyway, isn't it?
Yes,
I
with
should
a
remember
blue
that.
rose left in the front of it. Aubrey is tied up on an operating table somewhere by someone with blue gloves. And we cut away as her kidnapper opens up a cool box.
Oh, yeah. So, would this be dry ice?
It's dry ice.
So, it's chunks of dry ice that he takes out. And then we fade to police speaking to Aubrey's father, Daniel.
Yeah.
The fades are fade to blue, aren't they?
Of course.
Then we get legendary housewife Garcelle, playing Agent Julie Bascombe.
Yeah.
And she's talking to Aubrey's mother, Susan.
Mm-hmm.
Garcelle is from Real Housewives of Beverly Hills.
She is.
She's a legendary housewife, and she has very little to do in this film.
Yeah.
She's in it a fair bit.
She is.
But she ain't got much to do. But she does it well, and she's beautiful as always, and I love her.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Susan, Aubrey's mother's just there stroking a cat whilst being questioned.
Yeah, she does the usual, you expect your children to come home at night stuff that's in every film where someone's kid goes missing.
And then we cut back to Aubrey still tied up, and for a film that's been quite mild up until this point on violence, she starts having her fucking skin lifted off her hand with this dry ice.
Yeah.
And
So
then,
her hand's like between the two chunks, isn't it?
yeah.
Of dry ice. And then the murderer proceeds to pour a thick blue liquid on her hands.
Yeah.
And then starts to cut off her fingers.
Yeah, with a piece of glass.
Yeah, this weird blue glass.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. It kind of looks like that glass icing, not icing sugar. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean.
Sugar,
Yeah.
Sugar stuff. Yeah.
And it looks great. It's all practical effects.
Yeah.
It looks really great. It's just, I think obviously there's a 3.5 hour cut out there somewhere where it's probably a bit more consistently violent. But when it's just suddenly out of nowhere, it's a little jarring.
Yeah, it is. We then get a very unprofessional police detective who's hoping all of the missing girl investigations don't interrupt bingo that evening. Really not sure why that was left in from the 3.5 hour cut. Completely pointless. We then have a girl driving. She's got man troubles, isn't she?
She has.
She's having a right old whinge on the phone. And I thought she hit something.
No, so she sees a fox in the middle of the road and then swerves out. And then finds Aubrey.
Yes.
So you think.
So she finds Aubrey. Yeah, this is going to be really confusing.
I've just got it down as Dakota after this.
Yeah, I've got it down as Dakota for this, thank God.
But again,
this is probably something we should have discussed before the podcast.
I don't know why
It's worked out in our favour.
I don't know why this woman on the phone was so angry, because she's arguing the fact that her boyfriend and her, they finish each other's sentences, but she's like really upset about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You didn't finish my sentence.
Aubrey has one of her hands and her leg and one of her legs amputated. The surgeons start operating on her, and the surgeon's like, "She's fucking awake here," and I'm like, "For God's sake!"
Yeah, which I confusingly thought was malpractice. And I'm like, oh, okay, is this just not going to be brought up? She's awake during the...
Yeah.
But obviously it's whatever the guy has given... No,
they're just bad surgeons.
Yeah, but they must be. Because the whole idea is that Aubrey was awake as the amputations were going on.
Yeah.
And he'd given her something to make sure she stayed awake during the whole thing. Which I thought was why Dakota was still awake during the surgery, because it was still in her system.
Yeah.
Which I think was what the film was alluding to. But the twist is that Dakota had been nowhere near the piano teacher's house before.
Yeah.
So this is malpractice. There we go.
Aubrey's parents visit her at the hospital, and she shocks everyone by claiming to be a down-on-her-luck stripper named Dakota Moss.
So when she does wake up, the nurse says, "Hey, beautiful," which I thought was a bit strange. So she notices her right hand and leg are missing, starts screaming, which again makes no sense because by all accounts they'd already fallen off
Yeah.
by that point in Dakota's story. The police discuss Aubrey's attack. Apparently she'd been missing 17 days.
Yeah.
Then Garcelle, I will refer to her as Garcelle for the whole list. Garcelle thinks the culprit is against witnessing the murder.
Mm-hmm.
And as always, Garcelle is 100% correct.
Yeah.
Aubrey believes she is Dakota Moss and not that Aubrey chick.
Yeah, so Lindsay Lohan as Aubrey actually wasn't terrible. She's very Lindsay Lohan, you know.
Yeah, it was on brand for her.
As soon as she changes to Dakota, she differentiates the two characters by becoming a bad actress.
Yeah. The struggle's real,
Yeah.
unfortunately. And essentially, in terms of performance, what separates the two is that number one, she doesn't need glasses when she reads. Number two, she uses the word fuck as punctuation. And thirdly, she likes to smoke and have sex.
Yeah.
And that's it. In terms of nuances and performance, it's kind of the same.
Yeah, just...
Whereas you think you've got these two characters, yes, they look similar, they're twins,
Mm-hmm.
but they've grown up separately from each other. So they would really be different. You know, like Parent Trap, where one of them had a British accent.
Yeah.
I mean, who's to say that they would have the same voice or the same... Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
There would be something different about them. Even though they're twins,
Mm-hmm.
you know, they've been raised two very different ways. So I would like to have seen more, even though it would have been a dead giveaway, unfortunately to the twist, which is the fact that they are twins, it would have been a dead giveaway. But now knowing the twist, it's a bit like, oh, you know,
Yeah.
it's kind of, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just wish there would have been a little more to it.
She gives a detective a backstory about how she was raised by a crack addict and how her mother died recently, and her mother only left her $11. And she asks if the detective is the Fuzz, but we find out he's a psychiatrist who works with the FBI.
Yeah, we get a flashback to Dakota finding her mother's dead body, don't we?
Yeah.
Dakota's wearing a red top. A red, like, tiger print top. So the FBI agent tells her that her... Well, he's not an agent, is he? Psychiatrist or whatever. They tell her that her injuries match a murder victim exactly. I'm a bit confused because she's really reluctant to speak to them.
She is, yeah.
And I don't know why. It's never really explained why she's so reluctant to speak to them or reluctant to help find whoever did this. Because in her head at that moment, she's still thinking that somebody has done this to her.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't she? She
Yeah.
didn't explain... Oh, wait. No, it makes sense now. Because the things that happened to her because of this stigmata twin thing.
Yeah.
So maybe she thinks they just think she was crazy.
Yeah.
I think that's why she's reluctant to help. Oh God.
Susan shows up and they're having a look at a picture of Aubrey. Why did I forget it? When she was younger in Hawaii. Dakota's like, oh yeah, I did used to wear similar clothes to that, but in brown. And then Susan finds a photo of Jennifer in Dakota's bed and starts shouting in Agent Garcelle's face about it.
Yeah.
But Agent Garcelle's just like, oh, look, I just want to protect your daughter. Well, that's not really an explanation as to why that's in her bed.
No. You could have shown it her and then taken them with you.
Yeah.
But, you know, she's like, Garcelle!
The detectives are some of the most unprofessional detectives in cinema history.
It's not great.
They start questioning Dakota to help the FBI, and she tells them about her new job at a gentleman's club. And this is when we're introduced to her boss, Fat Teena, played by the icon that is Bonnie Aarons, who you may know from The Nun, as the Nun. And her first line
Almost like the scariest thing on the planet in Mulholland Drive.
So she shows up and she's like, I don't care how old you are, kiddo. If your ID says you're 21, you're fucking 21 to me.
Yeah, all this with a topless Pink lookalike in the background. So this is like the showgirls part of it, but with like barely any strippers actually like there, and like no camaraderie, no sort of interactions with any of her colleagues. Yeah, colleagues. Yeah.
Dakota pole dances to How Long by Out Hood.
Yeah, a strange choice because it was a not very sexy upbeat indie pop song, which I don't really understand. What's better is the generic rock.
Freya by the Sword.
Yeah, as she's taking a cigarette from
Rolling
a
around the
patron's
stage.
mouth. She's then at the bus stop in a red coat.
Yeah.
And a thoroughly modern Millie hat. When a shadowy figure watches her and teleports next to her, scaring her before the bus pulls up. So, I mean, for the twist, this is just a creepy guy.
Yeah.
Or is this the killer? No, because the killer would have thought it was Aubrey.
Well, suppose, yeah.
What I don't understand is that this guy the piano teacher is Aubrey's piano teacher.
Yeah.
So why would he have to abduct her?
It's
like,
true.
like why abduct her in public?
Yeah.
And if he's the one who's following Dakota, then why would he? Is he not concerned that Aubrey's in a strip club? Like dancing in a strip club? Is he not a little confused by the whole thing?
The twist really renders a lot of this pointless.
Yeah, some holes.
She tells Agent Garcelle how the guy was intense. She didn't see his face, but she knows that he was in the club. I mean, considering he was so intense, she didn't really seem that bothered about it when he was there at the bus stop.
Or is she making this story up to cover up the fact that her limbs just dropped off?
It's probably just bad writing, to be honest.
Probably.
Agent Garcelle and the other detective are fuming and aggressively question her some more, so she rants at them about being locked up in a hospital like a prisoner.
The psychiatrist believes Dakota is Aubrey and she's delusional.
Yeah.
And Dakota is just an... Oh, excuse me. Voice break. Dakota is just an alter ego.
Yeah.
Then the news breaks on TV that Aubrey has been found alive and is at the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
Which people did not want out because they still think that the killer wants to come after Aubrey and finish the job.
Yeah.
So Dakota has a nightmare about her assault and her arm starts bleeding.
Yeah, which then it isn't a dream because it actually starts bleeding. Like the dream sequences in this, they kind of just happen, and then you're left wondering, wait, hang on, was it a dream? Was it not?
Is it a dream? Is it a psychic connection?
Yeah.
But then you're getting into the realm of psychically connected twins, which is, oh god.
Yeah, and then that kind of just ends.
A bit more.
That entire thing just ends, and then she's given her new robotic hand.
She is, yes.
And a prosthetic leg as well.
Yeah. She says it's creepy, and the guy who's invented it or is helping her with it says no, it's beautiful.
After he helps her try to start walking again, but she picks up really fast. She's driven home with some Suspiria style lighting used in the rain.
Yeah, so my issue with this is that it makes for a very lovely looking scene. And it's red and blue lighting flashing on and off with the lights of the police car that they're travelling in. But if you're trying to be inconspicuous because of the media and a serial killer, probably best not to draw attention to yourself with the flashing lights. Maybe it would be best to have not been in a police car.
Yeah.
With 3 other police cars travelling behind as well.
Yeah, it's
But it does make for a very, very Suspiria-like scene.
She arrives home and she asks Susan and Daniel if Aubrey chose the colours for her room before telling them that she doesn't like cats when the cat with a big ball seems happy to see her.
Yeah. Yeah. Even more happy than earlier. Jared comes to visit with blue roses.
Of course.
Now he's got a whole dozen blue
Yeah.
roses. Anything for his girl. Dakota is wearing all red,
Yes.
which confuses me a little bit because surely she'll need to borrow clothes from Aubrey's wardrobe. And a big deal was made of the fact that Aubrey dressed in blue. Blue was her favourite colour. So why has Aubrey got a whole red outfit? Because the whole outfit's red. Why has she got that in her wardrobe?
Yeah, it conveniently appears there when
Conveniently.
it needs to appear.
Yeah, because Dakota, by all accounts, doesn't go back to her actual home.
No.
Or wherever
no.
she's been.
Yeah, so to prove that she's not Aubrey, she gives him a kiss and then bites his lip. I mean, how does she know that Aubrey wouldn't do that? But okay.
Yeah, it's true actually.
And then they go to Aubrey's room and have really loud sex, much to Susan's disgust.
Yeah, so Susan is cleaning
Yeah.
to try and get her mind off of the fact that Dakota and Jared are shagging upstairs. This is really disrespectful on Jared's behalf. Like, really quite rude. Jared asks Dakota why she's doing this, but obviously he calls her Aubrey. And Dakota was like, I'm not Aubrey. Did she fuck you like this?
Yeah, and then he wants to know how she got all cut up if she isn't Aubrey. So, this looks like it's just the next scene, which is very confusing when you see her with 2 arms and 2 legs. But yeah, it just goes to this next scene where Dakota's showering and her finger turns black and bloody. She then goes to the club where she works, has a swig of wine and does some dancing. Then there's blood on the pole from the start of the film. She goes back to the dressing room, her finger falls off when she takes the glove off. So, it's like, all this just happens, like, there's no indication that this is a flashback at all. It just happens, which is really confusing. And then Fat Teena and another stripper, Jasmine, played by another Real Housewife.
Yes, legendary housewife Kenya Moore, serving Gone with the Wind Fabulous.
Yeah, she's they find Dakota passed out with loads of blood, and she's like, I found a heroin hoe just like that.
So, out of context, that Gone with the Wind Fabulous sounds weird. It's her catchphrase, and she had a song based around it. It's not a weird compliment that I've made up.
Fat Teena sends Dakota home. By the way, Fat Teena isn't fat. I don't know why her name is Fat Teena.
No, and she's never referred to by any name in the film. It's just in the credits, she's Fat Teena. I don't know if that's an inside joke or something.
Dakota has a cig on the bus, and a guy on the bus gives some words of wisdom and tells her, people get cut, that's life.
Yeah, she's having to get the bus home because hospitals are for rich people.
Yeah.
And in fact, Tina gave her 2 towels. Bless her. So yeah, I'm confused by this book because I'm like, oh, it is a flashback, and apparently her finger did fall off.
Yeah.
I'm assuming she sewed it back on herself as it's intact. Turns out later it is revealed that she does sew it back on herself.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, unlikely, but okay.
Well, she tells Jared that she needs his help, so he goes outside, and as a distraction, he asks the entire FBI officers if any of them have a condom.
Yeah.
One of them gives him one, and he...
No, he doesn't.
Yeah, he does.
No, he doesn't.
I swear that one of them does.
No. So the whole idea... So, Dakota thinks Jared only believes her strange story because she fucked him, but he vows to help her. Jared asks the FBI out front for a condom. They don't have any, so he drives off, seemingly to go buy one.
Oh, okay.
So that's why they let him go, because they're like, oh, lad, get in there.
Yeah.
Go get your condoms. I'm glad you're being safe. Turns out it's all a ruse, and Dakota is in the boot
Yes.
and has now successfully snuck past the FBI. And we never see Jared again.
But then she goes to this random house. Like, it's never explained whose house this is. I'm going to assume it's Jennifer's house.
I feel like it was Jennifer's.
But it's never explained.
No.
She investigates the room with lots of blue. And then the Aubrey's parents show up and take her home.
Yeah, so Jennifer's mum, I'm assuming, we're just assuming this. She starts yelling at Dakota for not cooperating with the police. And then storms off. I don't know why Dakota's in Jennifer's room. I don't know what she's there to find.
Well, she just touches a blue trophy and then that's it.
Yeah. Oh. What's the trophy?
I have no idea.
Do you think it's a young musician?
Maybe.
I suppose that makes sense. But unless you're making it expressly clear, then it's just confusing.
Well, after examining Aubrey's laptop, the FBI discover a short story.
Oh, because you cover what you see every day.
Yeah.
Can't silence the lambs. She might as well open a fucking music box and find a saucy photo.
Whilst examining Aubrey's laptop, the FBI discover a short story about a girl with an identical twin sister named Dakota.
Mm-hmm.
Dakota has a dream about the guy from the bus who repeats his dialogue and then his chest tattoo comes to life.
Yeah, some wonderful CGI. So Garcelle's found this story. Is this the last time we see Garcelle?
I think so.
And she's right about everything, about the story, and right about the DNA tests coming back, and they're a perfect match.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, fantastic. Well done, Garcelle. You were right on all counts, and we never see you again. Never see the FBI again, do we?
No.
We don't see the police, nothing like that. Dakota has her dream about the bus dude and his CGI chest tattoo of a heart with wings. He says sometimes people get cut. Sometimes people get cut in half.
This causes her to have a sig and a bit of a search on Ask Jeeves, the updated version, ask.com, about unexplained bleeding wounds. And the first thing that comes up is stigmata. So she diagnoses herself with stigmata.
Stigmata? I barely know her.
She watches a video of Art Bell talking about previous cases of stigmata.
Yeah, poor man Stephen King looking dude.
Yeah.
So stigmata is in relation to Jesus.
Yeah.
So his wounds, the stigmata, there's a whole fucking film about it. Did you ever watch that?
No.
I never watched it. I think, was it Patricia Arquette in it?
I think so.
So it's to do with Jesus' wounds. It's the stigmata. But the whole idea of this is twin stigmata?
Yeah, it's fucking...
Stigmatic twins?
Yeah.
Where unexplained injuries have somehow occurred on one twin when the other has been injured or even shot or stabbed or whatnot.
It's such a stupid explanation for this film in particular. You know, maybe elsewhere it could have worked, but here it just feels a bit forced and really out of place.
I think the problem is it doesn't feel like a twist.
No.
Because it's based in fantasy or myth. And so it doesn't really feel like a proper twist.
No.
Because the rest of the film was taking everything so seriously.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does.
Because you had a whole FBI investigation and some really gruesome murders that, you know, felt very realistic, and it was feeling like a police procedural drama, you know, like Silence of the Lambs, and then this twist, I mean, I'm assuming, you know, kind of brings it to the ridiculous, really, and it's kind of like, oh, Oh, okay. So are we not meant to be taking this seriously?
No, and the thing is, Dakota is so easy to believe it as well. Like, I mean, there's nothing to confirm this is what happened. And straight away, she's like, yeah, that's it. I fucking got the stigmata.
Exactly.
And she goes and tells Susan all about it and says that she's Aubrey's long lost twin. But to prove her wrong, Susan somehow has the pregnancy scan from when she was having Aubrey.
Ultrasound.
Yeah, she's got it on a TV.
She has. So I'm assuming back in the day it would have been on an old VHS. Because it says Aubrey was born in 1988, which the same year as me.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how it works. Maybe they did back then, but she probably would have had it on a VHS.
Yeah.
And then had it transferred to a DVD, so she could put it on the TV to show Aubrey.
Look at your scan picture.
I was going to say, when the scan picture just sufficed. It was a very weird choice.
And this is the turning point of the film now. So
because lightning starts striking.
Yeah.
So this is it now.
Up until this point, it's an entertaining enough film and a decent film at that, despite a few convoluted things here and there, as we've already discussed. But then as soon as you hit this point, Susan starts talking shit for about 20 minutes, just to make a point out being there for Dakota if she needs her. Dakota has a vision in a mirror of herself or Aubrey dressed like a bride being knocked out by a shovel and taken away somewhere, which makes her flowers fly away into a stream.
Yeah, you get CGI blue rose petals falling into a stream.
Yeah.
Dakota's nose, which it's like she punched herself, isn't it? And her nose starts bleeding. Then suddenly everything falls into place.
Mm-hmm.
Inexplicably, there's no real like aha moment.
No.
Dakota confronts Daniel about letters she found. I can't remember when she found these letters, but she found these letters, which indicates that his and Susan's baby died, and he bore Aubrey from the crackhead down the ward.
He did. Yeah.
We then get a flashback to Dakota sewing her finger back on and waking up to her leg having fallen off in her sleep. And then she wakes up screaming because her leg has fallen off in her sleep. But then she also wakes up in the hospital screaming, shocked that her leg's not there. Which I was a little confused by, because I feel like she was so uncooperative with the police because she didn't think they would believe the story of her leg falling off in her sleep.
Yeah.
So, but why was she so shocked? And why the surgery? What's the surgery for then? Was the surgery just to close the wound? Because her leg had already fallen off by that point. Surely she didn't sew that back on.
No, well, I mean, it's like I said, from this point on, it is just a fucking mess.
It's messy.
Daniel refuses to help her, so she tells him he's pathetic and to go fuck himself. And she goes to a nearby cemetery because of a vision that she had. After investigating the grave of Aubrey's recently murdered friend Jennifer, you may remember her from earlier in the film.
Wait, was that Jennifer's grave?
Yeah.
Oh.
Dakota finds a blue ribbon.
Did I misread that then?
Maybe.
I misread it as Aubrey's grave, which I thought was very confusing because I was like, surely that's very suspicious if the murderer's gone out and gotten a headstone made of someone who's not even dead yet.
Yeah. So she finds a blue ribbon from a piano competition with a message from Jennifer and Aubrey's piano teacher, Douglas Norquist. She's followed by Daniel and declares, "I know who killed me."
Yeah, I know who killed me. Which, makes for a great little clip in the trailer.
Yeah.
And it's also the title of the film. But considering she spent all of the film trying to tell people that she is not Aubrey.
Yeah.
getting very aggressive when people kept trying to tell her that she was Aubrey. She's done a whole fucking investigation. The whole film is based around the fact that she is not Aubrey,
Yeah.
and she needs people to understand she's not Aubrey. When she sits or whatever, wherever she is, and says, "I know who killed me," it goes against everything that she's been talking about.
It does. And this one line of dialogue.
Did you notice this is a really stylish scene, and it's the one part where it was like, yes, Brian De Palma finally gets split screen.
Yes.
I was waiting for it. The moment it was like, oh, De Palma, Dressed to Kill was a big influence. Surely Body Double as well, big influence.
Yeah.
I was like, when we're getting the split screen, and it's in red, it's Dakota's profile, and then in blue, what I assumed was Aubrey in a grave.
Yeah.
Now, when I thought that was Aubrey's grave, not Jennifer's, I thought she had like a head to the gravestone, but now I understand that it's just a split screen between the two.
Well, the two go without any FBI backup to Norquist's home to confront him.
Of course.
Daniel heads in alone, leaving a panicking Dakota in the car alone. Attempting to calm herself, Dakota refers to herself as Aubrey. AKA, they stole it from a different scene in the film and accidentally left it in there, clearly.
Yeah, I assumed this was the twin psychic connection.
Yeah.
And she knew that Aubrey was still alive and buried. I thought she knew that Aubrey had been buried alive. And that's why she's saying breathe Aubrey, as if trying to psychically tell Aubrey to breathe, which is whatever. It's confusing.
Daniel is seemingly overpowered and is implied killed by Norquist, and Dakota, having entered the house, attacks Norquist in self-defense and cuts his hand off before being overpowered and tied up.
Yeah, so this is the scene where I'm assuming Lindsay wasn't there, because it's very dark. You can barely see anything. When she does cut off the piano teacher's hand, you don't see anything because it's so dark. I thought she just cut the finger off, but she ends up in a room with lots of wooden legs hanging from the ceiling. Which I don't know where he got all those wooden legs, because he's not killing people who have already been amputated.
No.
We could have done with a little FBI section at the end explaining something. She finds Daniel in a bath of blood. It looks like a bath of blood. And she pretends she's Aubrey to comfort him as he dies. The killer appears with a blue rubber mask. He rips off her arm, knocks her out, and yells. He's got like a blue, like a blue condom on his head.
Yeah.
Cut to him playing the piano badly. Which I was like, why is he playing the piano so bad? And then realised, oh, it wasn't just a finger, his whole hand's been cut off. And he's left it in ice. Billy Joel, piano man, goes nuts upstairs as Dakota is tied up. But she sees the blue curtain. Conveniently, there's the blue glass thing near her. And we don't see her grab it in any way, but she notices it. He questions her on how she got out of the grave, and he's fuming. He has to do the whole thing all over again. She manages to cut herself free, though, and eventually stabs him in the neck, and he dies very slowly. Dakota goes to Aubrey's grave. I don't know how she knew where she was. And starts digging. Incredibly, Aubrey is alive, so we don't know how long she's been underground for. How long has she been underground for?
Well, I mean, she was 17 days missing, and that was before all of this.
17 days missing. So, I don't know how long she's been or whatever. And then they just kind of lie next to each other without saying a word, and the film ends.
Yeah.
And just like, Aubrey doesn't seem shocked, she doesn't seem surprised, she doesn't seem anything really. She's breathing perfectly fine. There doesn't seem to be any real damage. Very confusing, messy ending. Really messy.
It really lets it down. That last half hour or so, just goes on, but it just, instead of just simply explaining everything, it just tries its best to overcomplicate it and to make itself look more intelligent. But it doesn't. It just ruins the fun of the rest of it.
Yeah, it does. It's. The problem is there's a solid foundation here for a good film, and it gets a little lost up its own arse at times. And it becomes very confusing. And by the end, I was just like, I just no idea what they were going on about.
No.
By the end, and the twist, it's such a silly twist. But the rest of it doesn't live up to what the campiness of what that twist should have meant. And yeah, it was disappointing actually. It was disappointing.
Yes. So that is I Know Who Killed Me. Not abysmal, but not amazing. Just somewhere in the middle.
I'd split.
Yeah.
Yeah. There we go.
So, are you a fan of I Know Who Killed Me? If so, let us know on social media. We're Horror Cult Trash over on Facebook and Instagram, and Horror Cult Trash on Twitter. I'm Dead at Gaz92 on Letterboxd, Gazmo205 on Instagram, and GazCruise92 on Twitter.
I'm Chris Barker823 on Letterboxd and Instagram.
Don't forget to give us a rate, review, subscribe on iTunes, like and follow on everything else. Give us a rating on Spotify. And we'll be back on Friday with a bonus episode where we will be discussing our festival highlights from this year's Glasgow Film Festival.
Yeah, a fair few.
There is a fair few. We'll be discussing what we watched at Fright Fest as well, which is part of Glasgow Film Festival.
Some good recommendations.
Yeah.
Films.
And then on Tuesday next week, we will be bringing you the next chapter in our journey through the Hellraiser franchise, where we'll be discussing Hellraiser 3, Hell on Earth, and Hellraiser 4 Bloodline.
Yay.
Pinhead in Space.
Oh. Yeah, I haven't seen that one yet.
And Victorian era Pinhead.
Huh?
Directed by Alan Smithy. Friday next week, we will be bringing you this month's original versus remake episode, where we'll be discussing the original and remake of Child's Play.
Yay. That's
So
more interesting.
Stacked full of episodes these 2 weeks. We hope you don't get tired of our voices easily.
I do.
Well, we will see you on Friday.
Bye.